Good morning. Today we're going to talk about a flower, some dark elements, just some folklore about the gladiola. What is the gladiola? Some people who don't know flowers. This is this. This is a gladiola. I have several of these in different colors. I had a pink one that bloomed first, which is now, you know, it's gone. I think I have like a purple one. I may have a yellow one, and and they don't bloom the same ones every year, you know. So I have red. I apparently have had a couple of red ones. This is one, the first one, red one that bloomed. This is the second one, and it kind of goes up in the blooms. You see, we have young buds at the top and then full-blown flowers, and then these down at the bottom have already bloomed and they are, you know, dead. So I wanted to know, was there any folklore behind the gladiola? So for one thing, we're going to talk about the origin of the gladiola. Now, majority of the species are native to sub-Saharan Africa, particularly the Cape Floristic region of South Africa. They have approximately around 300 known wild species growing there. 10 species are native to the Mediterranean, Europe, Middle East, and Western Asia. The Romans actually cultivated and spread it across the Mediterranean and into Europe. The Romans did a lot of this with cultures, species, and everything. And then it traveled the trade routes and the colonial expansion. So in the 15th and 16th centuries, many plants, not just these, were brought into the colonizing Americas. So that's how they got here. And they also have become the birth flower for August, and they are a 4th anniversary flower here in America because we tend to do, I don't want to call it stupid, but stuff like that. We do stuff like that. So there are several strands of folklore and myth that give it a blood-touched, battle-born, or underworld adjacent character. So here in the South, I wanted to add this in. Here in the South, well, this is North Florida, it's the South. You will sometimes, this is one of the flowers that you will see growing in what you think is an empty lot. Okay, they're just randomly growing someplace. But more than likely, there used to be a home there. And these are part of what I saw one time, this phrase, ghost garden. And I kind of like that. They were one of the plants that used to grow there on a, you know, this used to be a home there, and this would be in their garden. They will tend to spread. So, some Roman regional lands claim gladiola, sprang from the blood of Pollux, the mortal twin of Castor, after he fell in battle. The flowers marked the ground where warrior, brotherhood, and death intertwined. So this gives the gladiola a mythic origin tied to violent death, sacrifice, the bond between warriors, and the threshold between life and the underworld. And then there's a folk tale linked to the goddess Flora. It says that she created the gladiola from the broken sword of a warrior who refused to kill a defenseless enemy. Now, maybe this isn't dark in some kind of sinister way, but it's rooted in war, moral crisis, the transformation of violence into something living. This is a myth of restraint, but it's still born from bloodshed. In ancient Egypt, gladiola were connected to Osiris and the journey of the dead, believed to protect the soul in the underworld. So this gives the flower a psychopomp symbolism, protective magic for the dead, and ties to afterlife passage. And because the flower name comes from gladius, sword, it was deeply tied to Roman gladiators, men who lived and died in ritualized violence. Gladiators sometimes carried gladioli as talismans for courage and protection from fatal blows. This embeds the flower into blood sport, ritual combat, death defiance, and honor in the face of mortality. Then you have, like, some traditions have linked the gladioli to Venus's grief over Adonis's death, placing the flower in a lineage of tragic love and divine mourning. Now, me being in tradcraft, how could I interpret these myths? So the first one, a flower of blood and oath. Because of its ties to fallen warriors and brotherhood, it can symbolize oath-keeping, loyalty into death, and the price of courage. It is a plant of the threshold. Its Egyptian underworld associations make it suitable for ancestor rites, grave offerings, and protection during trance on spirit flight. It is a weapon flower. Its sword shape and gladiator symbolism align with baneful workings requiring moral clarity and protective magic, and rites of personal strength or ordeal. It is a mourning or lamentation flower. It's linked to Venus and Adonis, gives it a place in grief magic, rites of loss, and honoring the dead. Now, these myths can be woven into a darker, more liminal interpretation. Death as transformation, the blade as symbol and tool, and the threshold between worlds, and the moral complexity of power. So, my personal liminal translation, it is a flower born of the blade. In my worldview, the gladiola is not just a pretty flower. It's a weapon flower, a plant shaped by the same forces that shape iron. You have violence, courage, sacrifice, and the thin line between life and death. Its sword-shaped leaves, its leaves all come to a point, sword-shaped, which the Romans pointed out. Mark it as a plant that belongs to the martial current in the sense of wheel, ordeal, and the price of power. This plant could answer to oath-making, oath-breaking, personal trials, and the claiming of one's own strength. My young cat has discovered that I have plant material in the home, and so he is in here after it. It's a plant of the fallen and the restless dead. Because of its funerary and underworld associations, it sits naturally at the threshold between the living, the dead, the remembered, and the forgotten. And it can be used to call the honored dead, soothe the unquiet dead, and mark the boundary of a grave rite. It can protect the witch during trance and spirit flight. It's a plant of the ones who died hard, died young, died violently, or died with unfinished business. Now, if you were to work with the dead as teachers, guardians, or witnesses, this plant can serve as a signal to them, saying, like, I'm standing at the threshold willingly. It is a flower of oath and consequence. As a trad witch, I treat oaths as binding living things. So the gladiola, which with its history, becomes a plant that seals an oath. It can witness an oath. It can punish the breaking of an oath. I can use a single petal, or a leaf, like I showed you, a leaf, as a token of binding, and place it on my altar or carry it on me until an oath is fulfilled. If the oath is broken, the plant becomes a reminder of the blade that cuts both ways. It is a tool for baneful protective workings. Because of its sword nature, it can be used in workings that require a cutting away, a severing ties, defending boundaries. Okay, move. A striking back and returning harm to its source. This is surgical magic. It is precise, intentional, and grounded in a necessity. I can use dried petals in a severing charm. I can use the leaf as a symbolic blade. Here's another leaf I have. The whole flower as a stand-in for a sword in ritual, like one of these, like the whole flower. I can snip one off and use it as the blade or as a sword. It is potent for workings involving courage, justice, or retaliation. It is a flower of grief, but not the sentimentality of it. Because of its mythic ties to tragic death and divine mourning, this is a plant that understands grief, that sharpens a hardened grief, turning grief into a power. So in my practice, it could be good for lamentation rites and honoring the dead that I carry with me and transforming my sorrow into resolve. This is also a favorite flower of my grandparents. So, my grandmother's. So, yeah, it's perfect for that, which is why I'm always drawn to certain types of flowers and why I have those. I believe I actually got bulbs of those because they come in a bulb. Bulbs of those from family members, and those are the ones growing in my yard. So, like, this is how, when they die, they become like that. You can pull these out just like that and dry these. These are actually wet from very much needed rain. So I would have to pull these out and dry them. You can separate them by color if you so desire. There is no reason to. The ones I mentioned that you will see growing wild on the side of the roads, they kind of like a reddish orange, so they would be more like this. So yeah, that's the gladiola, and everything I could find on it. I had no reference whatsoever in my books that I have. I do not really have like floral witchcraft. Most of mine is herbal. So I need to be on the lookout for that. Couldn't find anything about any kind of folklore in Florida at all, other than, you know, when we see them growing in seemingly empty lots, they are the remnants of a ghost garden. So Sunday is the reasoning, you know, that I will be coming back with some regular, like, traditional witchcraft musings. So until that video, I'll see you then.